All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of D&D Deep Dive, the show where we dive deep into classes, subclasses, and other features of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons to help you get the most out of your choices. So, today we are continuing along that wonderful Fizban's Treasury of Dragons path by looking at the Drakewarden Ranger. Quick reminder, first things first, if you do enjoy these videos, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to turn notifications on. All of those things let YouTube know that they need to show other people this. Second thing, in honor of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, I updated my custom class, the Dragon Knights, by adding an additional subclass to it. It's called the Ravager. Links for both the base class and the subclass are in the description down below. Check them out. They're pay what you want, so you can get them for free. You can pay for them whatever you think they are worth to you, and whatever you can afford. Don't forget that aspect of it. If you think it's worth, a lot of money, but you can't afford it, I'd much rather you download it for free than not download it, or what could be worse, spend money that you don't have just because you think it deserves something. So, that being said, let's hop into this. So, first things first, quick refresher in 5th edition class design. Every class in 5th edition D&D is designed to play very differently right from the beginning. In order to do that, each class has these things called defining features. Defining features is either something that's unique to the class or perhaps not unique, but it's something that the class gets earlier or can do in a different way than other classes that get this as the same thing. So what are the Rangers' defining features? Well, depends on which flavor you're talking about. The 5th edition Ranger was a mistake, to be blunt. The PHP version of the Ranger just doesn't work very well. Now, I have a Hunter Ranger, which is a PHP class of the Ranger, and I played it in the Adventure League from, I want to say, like level 3 all the way up to level 10. And I loved it. I had an absolute blast doing it. But I did because I know the game really, really well. And so I was kind of able to build around the inadequacies of the class. When Tasha's Cauldron of Everything came out, they added some optional features that you could use to replace aspects of the Ranger that made it better. It's still not great. However, even just starting with Xanathar's Guide to Everything, the subclasses started really making up for the lesser aspects of the base class, and this one is no different. So if we are talking about the base version of the Ranger, the defining features of it are favorite enemy, which is an entirely role-playing feature. Basically, you choose a favorite enemy, and as you level up, you'll get to choose multiple favorite enemies. And the favorite enemy is a type of enemy, like beasts or constructs or dragons. And what it does is you have advantage on wisdom survival checks to track it, as well as intelligence checks to recall information about them. And anytime you pick a new favorite enemy, you get to learn a new language. That being said, it's extremely rare in any game for you to, for most players, to ever make an intelligence check to recall information about creatures in general. And tracking creatures is just not something that happens. It depends on your campaign. There are some campaigns where you might do it a lot, but you kind of have to have a campaign built around that. So for the most part, favorite enemy is just not that useful. The next defining feature is Natural Explorer, which is, again, kind of useful. You choose a favored terrain, and basically, difficult terrain doesn't slow your group's travel. While in that terrain, you can't become lost. Yeah, a bunch of other things that deal with the Explore tier or the Explore pillar of D&D 5th edition, which just a lot of people overlook. And then more stuff about tracking. And then, again, as you level up, you can pick multiple favored terrains. And then finally, at 2nd level, you get spellcasting, which the reason I call spellcasting a defining feature, despite the fact that all others, is because of one specific spell that is supposed to be a defining feature of the class, which is Hunter's Mark. Hunter's Mark is a bonus action. You mark it to the target, and then anytime you hit it with attacks, you do an additional d6 of damage. The thing that kind of shows how poorly the Ranger was built is you don't automatically learn Hunter's Mark. It is one of the spells that you can learn. So theoretically, you could build a Ranger without Hunter's Mark, which means you could build a Ranger without one of its defining features, which is bad design. Now, if we go to the optional features, they actually do a lot better stuff. Instead of Natural Explorer, you get Deft Explorer, which gives you some skill proficiencies. It increases your walking speed at level 6 and gives you a climbing and swimming speed, which just means that you can go a lot more places. And then at 10th level, you have a way to give yourself temporary hit points. And then they replace favorite enemy with favorite foe, which is a dumb thing to do. But basically, favorite foe is Hunter's Mark without it being Hunter's Mark, and it's an extremely more limited version of it because you only mark a single target, whereas Hunter's Mark, when one dies, you can shift it to the next target. And you have an extremely limited number of uses of it. But those kind of make up, and I made some suggestions of favorite foe to make it work a little bit better. But yeah, so, and favorite foe only does the additional damage once per turn, whereas Hunter's Mark every time you hit. So for melee rangers, it's actually pretty useful. So yeah, so those are the defining features of the Ranger. Again, the Ranger, lore-wise, is supposed to be this kind of natural fighter. In the idea of clerics and paladins are divine-based characters. A cleric is the spellcasting version. The paladin is the weapon-based version. The Ranger should work with the Druid kind of like that, where the Druid is the spellcasting version, the Ranger is the more weapon-focused version of it. And it just didn't used to do that. As far as how the Drakewarden works, well, let's hop into it and check it out. At 3rd level, you get 2 different abilities. The first one is called Draconic Gift. You gain the following benefits. You learned the Thaumaturgy cantrip, which counts as a Ranger spell for you. Which is really cool. Thaumaturgy is a fun, divine-based cantrip, which basically allows you to do cool stuff. Things like you can make your voice louder, you can cause flames to flicker or dim or change colors. It's basically, you know, signs of God kind of the things. And you can have a lot of fun with a Thaumaturgy cantrip. A lot of clerics, a lot of people that have access to the Thaumaturgy cantrip or characters don't tend to use it anywhere near as much as I think they should, because there's just so much you can use it for. It's the cleric version of Prestidigitation. You know, it's just this really cool jack of all trades cantrip. So it's cool that the Dragon Ranger gets it, or the Drakewarden. Second thing, you get Tongue of Dragons, which is you learn to speak, read, write Draconic, or one of the language of your choice. Yeah, both of those make perfect sense, are really cool. I like them. The second thing you get at 3rd level is called a Drake Companion. And this is so good. So good. So, as an action, you can magically summon the Drake that is bound to you. It appears in an unoccupied space of your choosing within 30 feet of you. Basically, the Drake follows the kind of new version of companions that showed up in Tasha's, which is it takes its turn. It shares your initiative order, but takes its turn immediately after. You can use your bonus action to command it to use one of its actions on its turn. Otherwise, it only takes the dodge action. And then if you're incapacitated, it can take all of its actions without being commanded. The Drake remains until it reduces until it's reduced to 0 hit points, until you use this feature to summon the Drake again, or until you die. Anything the Drake was wearing or carrying is left behind when the Drake vanishes. Once you summon the Drake, you can't do so again unless you finish a long rest. Until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of first level or higher to summon it. So, all that is pretty cool. Again, the biggest issue with the Beastmaster Ranger, which was the first kind of pet class in 5th edition, was you had to use your action to command your beast to do anything. So without using your action, your beast companion really was just a chair that moved around. It was really all it ever did. It was just in the way. It would take damage when you didn't need it to, and that was it. You really couldn't use it. By switching it over to the bonus action, it does mean that there's a lot more you can do with it. As far as the things that it can do, it's got a couple different things. First thing, it's got Draconic Essence. When you summon the Drake, choose a dragon, choose a damage type, dragon elements. The chosen type determines the dragon's damage immunity and the damage of its infused strikes trait. We'll deal with that in just a second. Basically, every time you summon it, you can give it a different damage resistance, which is really nice. Compared to the Beastmaster Ranger, where your animal companion is your animal companion. It never changes. This one changes every time you summon it, and every time you go to sleep, it goes away, and then when you wake up in the morning, you summon it in a new one. So this does mean that you can be very tactical with which flavor of dragon you choose, because giving it resistance to damage types is very, very useful. When we talk about infused strikes, giving it specific damage types is also going to be very useful. The actions it can take is, it only has one. It's called Bite. It does 3 plus your proficiency bonus to hit, so it's never going to be a massive bonus, but it'll do decent. 5-foot reach, and it does a d6 plus your proficiency bonus piercing damage. So pretty normal. If you compare it to making an offhand attack, if you're a dual wielder, it's going to do a similar amount of damage that you would do with a scimitar, which is normally what you would be dual wielding at this level anyways. So yeah, if you are a shooty ranger, this is just additional damage you normally couldn't. Dual wielding rangers, you would be using your bonus action to attack. With bow rangers, you don't generally tend to use your bonus action for anything other than Hunter's Mark. So this gives you a reason to use your bonus action, and is actually a pretty good one. It also means, and this is something that you don't really tend to see with rangers at all, is you can be a two-handed ranger. And what I mean by that is if you wanted to be a ranger that, and I have to really quick have to just check to make sure. Yeah, you have proficiency with martial weapons. If you wanted to be a ranger that used a glaive or a great axe or something like that, you could make a pretty interesting build with this Drakewarden, because your bonus action can now be used with your Drake companion. Now, they're not going to get the benefit of your Hunter's Mark, but there will be other things later on that aren't going to make it that big a deal, and having that would mean you could do things. It also means if you wanted to take, because one of the things you get as a ranger at second level is you get to pick a fighting style. One of the fighting styles you can use is the dueling fighting style, which could mean you could have just a single a one-handed weapon without anything, you would just get a bonus to attack rolls. So you would make your attacks with that, and then your bonus action, instead of dual wielding, would be launching your Draken. So this does open up for a lot more different builds than you would normally have. The final thing it has is a reaction, which is Infused Strikes. When another creature within 30 feet of the Drake that it can see hits a target with a weapon attack, the Drake infuses the strike with its essence, causing the target to take an extra 1d6 damage of the type determined by its Draconic Essence. So as simple as that sounds, this is a huge, huge deal. First of all, it means on your turn, because the Drake shares your initiative but takes its turn immediately after you, if it hasn't used its Infused Strikes yet, have it use its Infused Strike, which is going to do once because you only have one reaction per turn, on one of your attacks, which is just extra damage, and then as soon as you're done, it gets that ability back because it's its turn. The other thing that's interesting about this is it specifically says that it can see hits a target. So you get to choose to infuse the strike after you see whether it hits. And it says causing the target to take an extra d6 of damage. Because it's a die, if somebody crits, you can infuse their strike and they get 2d6 instead of 1. This is really cool. Combine this with Hunter's Mark. Like, if the Drake Companion only ever infuses your strikes, which is a total valid thing to do, this still means once per turn, you are getting an additional d6 of damage. Anytime you crit, you're getting 2d6 up to the damage. I generally going to recommend don't use the Infused Strike until it's the last hit of your turn. Unless it's something where you're not sure if you're going to hit every single time, simply because you want to see if you can get that crit so that Infused Strikes will be a little bit better. But this is just extra damage every single turn as long as you have your Drake out, which I like. I think it's really interesting. And again, because you can capitalize on crits with this, this means positioning your Drake in the right place can mean that, let's say your Paladin crits. Well, he's going to go ahead and put on a smite on that because that's what you do when you crit as a paladin. And then you can infuse that and just give him extra damage onto the top. It's a really, really cool ability. So yeah, that's your Drake Companion. Again, significantly better than the Beastmaster. This literally could be a rework of the Beastmaster Ranger, and I would be happy with it. So yeah, this gives you a viable pet class in 5th edition, which is not something that really has a lot of support. The optional features in Tasha's for the Beastmaster Ranger does help it a little bit, but I like pet classes. I think they're cool. So yeah, super cool in that. At 7th level, you get Bond of Fang and Scale. When you summon your Drake, it grows wings on its back and gains a flying speed equal to its walking speed. You have a flying Drake now. Super cool. In addition, while your Drake is summoned, you and the Drake gain the following benefits. Drake mount. The Drake grows to medium size. Reflecting your special bond, you can use the Drake as a mount if your size is medium or smaller. While you're riding the Drake, it can't use the flying speed of this feature. We'll get back to that. Magic Fang. The Drake's bite attack deals an extra d6 damage of the type chosen for the Drake's Draconic Essence. And then resistance. You gain resistance to the damage type chosen for the Drake's Draconic Essence. So there's a lot to unpack here. First things first, you can ride your pet. That's super cool. I like that. It does... it can fly when you're not riding it, which is super, super useful. Flying in general is good. When you are riding it, it can't fly. But that does open up, again, another interesting build option for something that never gets used, which is the Mounted Combat feat. Now, if you watched my feats series, I talked about Mounted Combat and how no one ever uses it. It's not that useful. being able to take a mount with you into dungeons is really, really hard. So it's generally something that only happens when you're outside. Things like stairs can be really, really rough on horses and that. That won't happen with your Drake mount. First of all, you can get off it and it can fly over any weird terrain. The mounted combatant feat gives you a number of things that are kind of useful. You have advantage on melee attack rolls against any unmounted creature that is smaller than your mount. At this point, that means only small creatures because your mount is only a medium sized. That will get more useful a little bit later. You can force an attack targeted at your mount to target you instead. Again, can be somewhat useful, maybe not. And then if your mount is subjected to an effect that allows it to make a dex save to take only half damage, it instead takes no damage if it succeeds or half damage if it fails. That is super, super useful because, again, your Drake companion is really useful. Now it gives you resistance to damage, which is really nice. Now its bite attack does additional damage, basically putting it on par with a scimitar with Hunter's Mark. So that's really, really useful. The infused strikes is really useful. You don't want your Drake going down. By taking this feat, now it effectively has evasion. For saving throws, it's actually trained in dexterity saving throws, so it adds your proficiency bonus to its dexterity saves, meaning it's going to have pretty decent dexterity saves. And so area attacks are generally dex saves. This is going to really, really save your mount. Even at just level 7, it's really going to save your mount a lot. And then as we go a little further, other benefits start showing up. So yeah, overall, being able to ride the Drake is really cool. If you want to kind of turn it into a mount situation, you definitely can. Going back to the dueling style, my ranger is a whip-wielding ranger. If you were to mount it, you can use the dueling thing to be able to hit targets up to 10 feet away from you because the whip has reach. If you want to use something else with reach that makes more sense, things like, I believe a lance, you actually have disadvantage unless you are riding while wielding a lance, so you could use a lance. Also, combining that with the piercer feats, so you can do extra damage on a critical hit and things like that. Like there's a lot of really cool things that you could turn into a really, really interesting character out of this. Yeah. Going to 11th level, you get Drake's Breath. As an action, you can exhale a 30-foot cone of damaging breath or cause your Drake to exhale it. Choose Dragon Elements. Your choice doesn't have to match your Drake's Draconic Essence. Each creature in the cone must make a dex save against your spell save DC, taking 8d6 damage on a failed save, half as much on a successful one. It increases to 10d6 when you reach 15th level, and once you use this feature again, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of 3rd level or higher to use it again. So this gives you a Dragon Breath attack. It's cool. I like the fact that they tie it to a 3rd level because damage-wise, it's doing about similar damage that you would see from a 3rd level spell. It's very draconic in its it just dragons breathe fire. This gives you a dragon breath thing. It can come from either you or your Drake. It's a cool ability. Yeah, just everything about it is cool. I love it. I think it's great. Finally, at 15th level, you get Perfected Bond. While your Drake is summoned, you and the Drake gain the following benefits. Empowered Bite. The Drake's bite attack deals an extra d6 of damage of the type chosen for its Draconic Essence for a total of 2d6 extra damage. So now your Drake's bite does 3d6 damage, meaning it outpaces dual wielding for a bonus action ability. That's cool. Large Drake. The Drake grows to large size. When you ride your Drake, it is no longer prohibited from using the flying speed of Bond of Fang and Scale. Now you have a flying mount, which is super, super cool. Again, now that it's a large size, if you have that mounted combat feat, now anytime you make a melee attack, you can get advantage on that, which means you're that much more likely to crit, which, again, if you build things to get together, you can have a really awesome build for this. Get that Piercer feat, use the Lance. You know, every time you crit, you do double damage plus another damage die, plus you can add on your Drake's extra damage. Like, it's just a cool way to do it. Now, if you don't want to go the melee route, being able to fly when you're a ranged attacker is massively useful. Like, just seriously, it's super great. If you watched the first campaign of Critical Role, eventually Vexalia gets a Broom of Flying, and it totally changes how she plays her character. She first found out about the wonders of a flying ranger by drinking a potion of flying, and then she found out that she could be far enough away, especially with a longbow, where your short range is like 120 feet. You can be way up in the air where you're out of range of most spell attacks, much less melee attackers in that, and you can just be piling on the damage from there. Well, this, you don't need a Broom of Flying, you don't need anything like that, you just need your Drake. You can get on their back, you can fly up, you can do your damage. Like, there's a lot of cool things that you can do with a flying mount. So, yeah, turned into really cool stuff. Final thing you get with Perfected Bond is Reflexive Resistance. When either you or the Drake takes damage while you're within 30 feet of each other, you can use your reaction to give yourself or the Drake resistance to that instance of damage. You can use this reaction number of times equal to a proficiency bonus. You gain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. You already have resistance to one type of damage chosen when you summon your Drake. Now you have resistance to really any type of damage. It'll only be for one attack. But that can be major. You get hit by that disintegration spell and you're about to lose your character. Nope. Reflexive resistance, I only take half damage from it. There's just so many useful things about being able to give yourself resistance at will to any kind of damage, or your Drake as well. So, yeah. Final thoughts. Overall, I love this class. I think it's massively cool. It's so different. Like I said, I think I covered the original Drakewarden, and if I remember correctly, I read over it really briefly, and I think they made a few changes. So this should be different enough that if you watch the old one, it should be a little bit different. But yeah, overall, this is such a cool class. It's a pet class, which is super, super underrepresented in 5th edition. You really only have the Beastmaster Ranger as far as pet classes, or the Battlesmith Artificer. And that's it. Tasha's really helped by making some summon spells that could make you a pseudo kind of pet class. But overall, I would like to see some more pet classes. This one feels balanced. It feels a lot of fun. And you get to do cool things. And again, by 15th level, you get to ride on the back of a flying Drake. Again, it's a Drake, not a dragon. There is an actual difference between Drakes and dragons. Dragons are sentient. Drakes are generally not. So this is a beast-type creature. You're not actually riding a dragon. But it'll look real similar. And it's a cool thing. It allows you to build a different kind of character than any other version of the Ranger. Again, for the Ranger, for fighting styles, as much as they give you a bunch of options, there are only ever 2 fighting styles Rangers ever take. It is either I have to look at the fighting styles again because I've forgotten what they have. It's either archery or it's 2-weapon fighting. That is all you ever take as a Ranger. giving you other fighting styles is pointless because no one ever takes them. But now, with your Drake, the dueling fighting style could be a really viable option. Or the defense fighting style could be a really valid option because your offhanded attacks aren't going to need your damage modifier being added to them. You can already do that with your Drake now. So yeah, like overall, it's a cool class. There's no other way to really describe it other than this is really cool. And I'm glad that it got released because I think it's going to be fun to play. I can't wait to see this at the table. So anyway, that's going to be all for me today. As always, again, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to turn notifications on in the comments down below. How do you envision your Drake? Your Drake companion? Are you going to make it like a guard Drake from Rise of Tiamat and stuff like that? Are you going to make it a little bit more like a serpentine dragon style thing? Are you going to make it more European dragon style? How do you envision your Drake that you summon with us? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, that is all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.